The night is wide and quiet. Above, the sky stretches like a deep blue veil, jeweled with countless stars. The desert breathes in silence, a vast ocean of sand glowing faintly beneath the silver light of the moon. In the stillness, a line of torches flickers against the horizon. Their flames dance gently, swaying in the soft desert wind. You drift closer, as if carried by the warm air, and the shapes of travelers appear. Wrapped in robes, their footsteps press into the sand with slow, deliberate rhythm. Their voices do not speak in haste. Instead, they hum in low tones, a chant rising and falling like the breath of the earth itself. The torches light their way, but they are not wandering. They are moving towards something sacred. In the ancient Near East, night was never empty. Every star above was a watcher, every shifting dune a vessel of memory. To those who walked the desert, the sky was a temple without walls. Gods were not far away. They were present in the fire, in the wind, in the stones. To live in balance with them was survival. To step outside of that harmony was to call down storms of misfortune. And so, sacred punishments were born. They were not only meant to hurt, not only to frighten, but to cleanse, to mend the torn fabric between the tribe and the unseen ones who watched from beyond the veil of night. The torches pause near a circle of stones. A ritual place old as memory. The sand within the circle has been swept clear, and in its center rests a vessel of clay, filled with oil, waiting to be lit. Around the stones, the tribe gathers. Men, women, children. Some hold reeds filled with incense. Others bow their heads in silence. The punishment about to be given is not spoken of as cruelty. It is called a balancing. One among them has broken the bond of trust, spoken words against the tribe's oath. To leave such a wound untended would be to invite chaos. But the act to come is shaped like a prayer, wrapped in rhythm, given to the gods as much as to the person. The leader steps forward. He is an elder, his beard white like the salt plains, his eyes steady as the moon above. He raises his hand and silence deepens. Only the wind remains, brushing gently across the desert floor. His voice carries slowly, chanting words of old, words that tell of fire as purifier, of the stars as witnesses, of the tribe as one body. The person who must be punished kneels in the sand. Their head is bowed, their shoulders trembling softly in the firelight. Yet around them no hatred breathes, no sharp voices cut. Instead, there is solemnity, as if the whole tribe feels the weight of this moment. The elder takes a torch and lowers it into the clay vessel. A flame blooms upward, tall and golden, reaching for the heavens. The light spills across the faces of all gathered. In its glow, eyes shine with both sorrow and reverence. The punishment is not death. It is a trial of endurance, meant to cleanse. The kneeling figure must hold their palms above the flame, not so close as to burn the flesh, but close enough to feel the searing breath of fire. Their arms tremble, but they do not pull away. The tribe chants softly, a circle of voices surrounding them, carrying the moment on waves of sound. The fire licks upward, and the night deepens. Time moves slowly. The person's breath grows heavy. Sweat beads upon their brow. Yet as long as they endure, they are seen as mending the bond, returning balance. The elder begins to sprinkle powdered herbs into the flame. Each spark that leaps upward is said to carry a prayer skyward. Some sparks are for forgiveness. Some are for healing. Some are for the gods to bless the tribe with rain, with fertile earth, with peace. The punishment is long, but it is shared. The tribe does not leave. They do not turn away. Each heart stands within the circle, bearing the trial together. In this way, punishment becomes not only a burden, but a bridge, binding the one who faltered back into the fold of the people. The desert wind carries the smoke outward. It drifts high into the star-strewn sky, curling in soft tendrils as if it were being read by unseen eyes. In ancient belief, the gods were never far. The smoke was their language, the flames their offering, the silence their reply. When the ritual ends, the figure collapses gently to the sand. Hands reddened but not destroyed, spirit heavy but intact. The tribe steps forward. Some place their hands upon the shoulders of the one who endured. Others lay down tokens, a palm leaf, a piece of bread, a small carved bead. These are not prizes but gifts of welcome, reminders that exile has ended and belonging has been restored. The elder lowers his head, whispering a final prayer. His words are too soft to catch, yet the rhythm of his breath feels like a blessing, smoothing the air like a lullaby. Then the torches are lifted once more, and the circle disperses back into the desert night. You drift with them, your spirit moving like a feather upon the wind. The stars above glow brighter, shimmering as if they too approve. The punishment, though difficult, has passed. Balance has returned. The desert rests in silence once more. This is how ancient cults of the desert carried their faith. Each punishment was a torch in the night, each ritual a way of tying human hearts back to the great fabric of sky and sand. The people knew. Life in such a harsh land required harmony, not only with one another, but with the divine forces that watched unseen. Far in the distance, another circle glimmers faintly. Another tribe, another flame, another chant. Across the endless dunes, countless such moments unfolded over centuries. Sacred punishments, part prayer, part trial, part reminder of belonging. The desert teaches in whispers. It says nothing survives alone. The wind needs the dune needs the stone needs the stars. And so do the people need one another, held together by ritual, by sacrifice, by the soft glow of fire in the night. Let your mind linger here, in the stillness after the fire has burned low. The torches have dimmed, their smoke curling into memory. The tribe has laid down to rest beneath the watchful sky. The elder's chant fades into silence. The punished one now breathes more peacefully, a weight lifted, their place among the people restored. The sand cools under the moonlight. The stars remain steady, eternal, like guardians above. The wind hushes, softer now, like the closing of eyes. Breathe with the night. Rest with the stars. All is balanced once more. The night rests gently over the hills of Greece. The air is cool, touched by the faint scent of olives and wild thyme drifting from the groves. Above, the stars glimmer like pale seeds scattered across the heavens, each one watching, each one silent. Far below, half hidden in shadow, lies the ancient city of Eleusis. Its stones are worn smooth with time, but they carry whispers, soft and enduring, like the hush of the sea upon the shore. Here torches once burned. Here footsteps once echoed in long procession. Here the mysteries unfolded in silence deeper than sleep itself. You drift toward the sacred path. The stones beneath you glow faintly in moonlight, guiding your way as if they remember the weight of countless pilgrims. Their feet pressed here not for war nor for gain, but for something gentler, more hidden. They came seeking rebirth, seeking comfort beyond the veil of death. The Eleusinian mysteries, secrets so guarded that even now, thousands of years later, the fullness of their rites lies veiled in silence. The temple rises in your mind's eye, a great hall of shadow, the telesterion, where torches once swayed against carved columns, painting golden arcs upon the walls. Inside, initiates gathered in stillness. They carried no weapons. They wore no crowns. They entered as seekers, men and women, rich and poor, travelers and kings, each leaving the outer world behind, stepping instead into the hidden chamber of soul and shadow. At the heart of these mysteries was Demeter, the mother of grain, the bringer of life from the earth. Her grief was known by all, for when her daughter, Persephone, was taken into the underworld, the earth withered, the fields turned barren, and the people starved. Yet when Persephone returned, even for a season, the earth blossomed again. This rhythm of descent and return, of death and rebirth, was the promise of Eleusis. Those who entered its mysteries tasted the hope that life does not end, but circles like the moon, like the seasons, like breath itself. But silence was the price. No tongue could reveal the rites. To betray the secrets was to unravel the thread of trust, to pierce the sacred veil that held the ritual's power. And so, punishments for breaking this silence were not seen as cruelty, but as guardianship. They were shadows cast to protect the flame. Imagine the stillness of that hall. Hundreds gathered, yet no voice dared rise above a whisper. The only sound was the soft crackle of fire, the rustle of robes, the breath of the initiates as they waited for revelation. The sacred objects, simple, mysterious, perhaps a stalk of grain, perhaps a hidden vessel, were shown not for curiosity, but for transformation. To see them was to carry a secret beyond words, something that touched the soul more deeply than thought. And if one should speak of these things outside the temple, if one should let slip what was meant only for the silence of Eleusis, the punishment was exile from the sacred circle, a soul cut away from the mystery's promise. To betray the silence was to step outside the cycle of renewal, to fall into the cold where no spring returned. You drift through the hall in imagination. The stones remember. They remember the chants that rose and fell like the sea. They remember the tears of those who felt the story of Persephone as if it were their own grief. They remember the trembling of hearts when the torches dimmed, and the hall fell into darkness, and the air grew heavy with waiting. Then a sudden flame, one torch, then many, igniting the chamber in a blaze of light. To the initiates, this moment was rebirth, from darkness into radiance, from silence into song, from death into life again. The punishment for betrayal was not only about silence. It was about holding this flame safe, never letting it flicker into the careless winds of gossip or doubt. Outside the temple, the olive trees swayed, their silver leaves whispering in the breeze. The sea beyond Eleusis rolled softly against the shore, its waves repeating their timeless hymn. And overhead, the constellations kept watch. Orion, Perseus, the Pleiades, all shining guardians in the sky, reminding the people below that the mysteries were written not only in temples, but also in the very stars. The myths told that those who were faithful to the silence, those who honored the rites with pure hearts, would find peace after death. No longer would they wander in shadow. Instead, they would rest in fields of joy, where blossoms never faded, where the spirit drank clear waters and lay upon soft meadows. To guard the mysteries was to guard this promise, to keep hope alive not only for oneself, but for all who entered seeking comfort. And so, punishments carried weight, not with cruelty, but with solemnity. To betray was to shatter the vessel that held hope. To keep silence was to let the vessel remain whole, carrying its hidden light forward through centuries. The stones of Eleusis are quiet now. The temple is fallen, the torches long extinguished. Yet in the hush of night, if you listen closely, you may still hear the echoes of chants, the footsteps of pilgrims, the breath of seekers who long to be reborn. Their silence has kept the mystery alive, like a flame hidden inside the heart of time. The air grows softer. The stars gleam more faintly, as if drawing a veil over themselves. The sea sighs against the shore, a lullaby older than memory. You are safe in this silence. You are cradled in the rhythm of descent and return, of night and dawn, of loss and renewal. Just as Persephone rises again, just as the earth flowers after winter, so too does every spirit carry a hidden springtime within. Rest in this thought. Let the torches of Eleusis burn gently in your imagination, their flames steady, their silence deep. The punishments are only shadows to guard the light. The mysteries are not broken. They linger, soft and eternal, like the hush between heartbeats. Now the night folds around you like a cloak. The stones are still. The temple fades into memory. Only the stars remain kind and watchful. Breathe with them. Rest with them. Let the silence hold you. The night has settled over the valley of the Nile. The air is warm, yet gentle, carrying the scent of lotus and cool water. The river gleams like a ribbon of silver, reflecting the soft glow of stars above. In the distance, the great pyramids rise, silent, eternal, their sharp edges softened by moonlight. They stand as mountains of stone, guardians of mysteries, keepers of the passage between this life and the next. You drift closer, and the sands whisper beneath your feet. A torch burns near the entrance of a temple, its flame bending in the quiet wind. Beyond the pillars, shadows move slowly as if each step is part of a sacred dance. Here beneath the pyramids, the people of Egypt gathered to honor the gods of sun and death, of rebirth and eternity. In this land, death was not an end. It was a doorway. The soul was thought to travel beyond the horizon into the fields of Ra, the golden god who rose each morning and sank each night into the underworld. To follow him was to pass through shadow, to face trials, and to rise again in light. Because of this, every act of life mattered. Every word, every deed, every oath carried weight upon the soul. When balance was broken, when dishonor touched the spirit, punishments were not only earthly, they were bridges to restore harmony, to cleanse the soul for the long journey after death. Imagine the temple chamber. Its walls are covered with painted scenes. Ra sailing his boat of fire across the sky. Osiris seated on his throne in the hall of judgment. Anubis weighing the hearts of the dead upon golden scales. The air is heavy with incense. The torches flicker, casting moving shadows that make the gods upon the walls seem alive. A man kneels before the priest. He has broken an oath, spoken words against the truth. To leave this wound unhealed would endanger his soul. For one day it will be weighed against the feather of Maat, the goddess of order and balance. If the heart is too heavy with lies, it will be devoured by Ammit, the devourer, and the soul will vanish forever. The punishment begins not with pain, but with purification. His hands are washed in sacred water drawn from the Nile. The priest murmurs words like a lullaby, prayers that rise like smoke to the ceiling. A torch is lowered before the man, its flame glowing steady. He must hold his gaze upon it, letting its light burn away the shadow within him. The fire's not only heat, it is symbol. It is the sun's light condensed, a spark of Ra himself. His breath slows. His body trembles. Yet he does not look away. The fire stares back, steady, consuming, yet strangely comforting. Around him, the people chant softly, their voices weaving a net of sound, holding him in place, keeping his spirit from wandering. When the trial ends, his tears glisten in the torchlight. He is marked not by scars, but by the weight of endurance. The people will say his soul is lighter now, his heart cleansed, prepared once more to journey with Ra across the sky. In another rite, deeper within the pyramids, a chamber glows with oil lamps. Here silence reigns. Only the drip of water from hidden stones breaks the stillness. Within this place, punishments took on the form of confinement and shadow. A transgressor might be left alone with only a single flame, told to contemplate the journey of the sun as it sinks each evening into darkness. The silence pressed close like the embrace of the underworld, yet even here the punishment was not cruelty. It was a mirror of the soul's journey after death. To endure the night alone was to taste the path of Ra, to understand the courage needed to rise again in light. Above ground, the desert spread wide, endless beneath the stars. The pyramids stood as lighthouses of stone, guiding souls toward eternity. Priests spoke of the fire within them, not literal flames, but the eternal fire of the sun, a light that never dies. To betray sacred vows, to harm the balance, was to dim that inner fire. Punishments, therefore, were the way to rekindle it. Listen now to the sound of the wind brushing against stone. It is soft, unhurried, carrying grains of sand like whispers from long ago. Those who endured these rites of fire and silence were not cast away, but welcomed back into the circle. The purpose was always to heal, to prepare the spirit for the voyage into the golden fields, where souls walked among reeds, where the Nile of eternity flowed clear and endless. The myth spoke of Osiris, the god who himself endured death, who was torn and scattered, yet brought back by love and devotion. His story was the heart of Egypt's faith, that no matter how broken a soul might become, it could be restored, it could rise again. The punishments beneath the pyramids echoed this truth. They were shadows, yes, but shadows with light at their center. As the night deepens, the torches burn lower. Their flames curl and bow, dimming until only embers remain. The temple falls into stillness. The stars above grow brighter, their reflection shimmering across the Nile. The pyramids stand unchanged, their stones cold, but their presence filled with a quiet warmth. Like guardians watching over dreamers, you drift with the night. You drift with the river. You drift with the fire that burns not to destroy but to purify. The heart is lightened, the spirit soothed, the silence complete. Let the sands cradle you. Let the stars keep watch. The fire has done its work. Balance has returned. Now rest, as the golden fields of Ra shimmer far beyond the horizon. The night drapes itself across the mountains of Greece, tender and still. The peaks are dark silhouettes, crowned by starlight, their slopes softened by mist that drifts like pale veils. Somewhere among these ancient ridges, the sacred valley of Delphi rests in silence. The earth seems to breathe here. The stones hum with memory. The air itself feels touched by something unseen, something older than time. You drift toward the temple, following a path lined with broken columns and weathered statues. Their faces are worn smooth by centuries of wind, yet their shapes still lean toward the heavens, as if listening. A faint glow rises ahead, not of fire, but of moonlight falling upon marble. The temple of Apollo stands there, quiet beneath the stars. Its steps are cool with dew. Its pillars rise tall and solemn, each one a sentinel of the sacred. Within these walls, the oracle once spoke. She was not a queen, not a soldier, not a ruler of men. She was simply the voice, the mouth through which the god whispered. Her words carried the weight of mountains, for it was said they came from Apollo himself, shining lord of prophecy, bringer of light. The people who came to Delphi came with trembling hearts. Kings with questions of war, farmers with hopes for harvest, lovers with longing in their chests, all stepped into this temple with heads bowed, their feet brushing the stone in reverence. The air inside was thick with the perfume of laurel leaves burning on sacred fires. Somewhere deep within the temple, the oracle sat, veiled in white, breathing in the vapors that rose from the earth itself. When she spoke, her voice was strange and distant, like wind moving through hollow caves, like water echoing in stone chambers. Her words were rarely plain. They shimmered with double meaning, layered like veils of mist. Yet all who heard knew one truth: to ignore her was to ignore the gods. And so the space of the oracle was guarded, not with armies, not with walls, but with silence and respect. To enter without reverence was to invite shadow. To mock the oracle was to wound the very order of the world. The punishments for such defiance were not only of the body, they were punishments of the spirit, said to cling beyond one lifetime, binding a soul in knots that could take centuries to untangle. Imagine now the moment of prophecy. The chamber is dim, its walls flickering with torchlight. The oracle sways gently, her eyes half closed, her lips whispering in riddles. A king kneels before her, his head bent low, awaiting guidance. The silence of the room deepens, broken only by the steady rhythm of her voice. Each word drips slowly, like drops of water falling into an endless pool. Those gathered listen with fear and awe, for her voice does not belong to her alone. It is the river of Apollo's light flowing through her. To defy it is to defy the god himself. And so, if one among them were to rise in arrogance, to laugh, or to mock, the punishment would not come from human hands alone. It was said the god would mark such a soul. Misfortune would ripple outward. Crops might wither, children might fall ill, storms might rise against the land. But there were punishments shaped by mortals as well. A defiant one might be cast from the temple, banished from Delphi's sacred stones. To be turned away was no small thing. It meant exile from the voice of truth, separation from the breath of the divine. To wander without guidance was a punishment deeper than pain. The myths tell of souls who ignored the oracle, who scoffed at her warnings. Their paths twisted like dark rivers. Battles were lost, kingdoms crumbled. What was whispered within these? Walls echoed across lifetimes, carrying a weight too heavy to escape. For prophecy was not seen as choice, but as the current of fate itself. To swim against it was to drown. Yet there is gentleness here too. For the oracle's words, though heavy, were given to guide, not to harm. They were fire, yes, but fire to light the way. The punishments, though feared, were reminders of reverence. They guarded the space, keeping it pure, keeping it sacred, so that the voice of the god could flow without interruption. Outside the temple, the night remains hushed. The mountains cradle the valley like great sleeping forms. The Pythia, the oracle herself, sits in stillness once more, her breath slowing, her body quiet after the storm of prophecy. She is but a woman again, wrapped in white, her bare feet upon the stone floor. Yet the silence around her hums with lingering power. The priests extinguish the torches one by one. The chamber grows dim. The scent of laurel smoke fades into the cool air. Only the memory of words remains, floating like feathers in the mind. Those who leave carry them like sacred seeds, too fragile to speak aloud, too holy to expose to careless air. Silence is their cloak, respect is their burden, and so the punishments remain unspoken, like shadows at the edge of the flame. They are not shouted, not carved upon the stones. They drift instead in whispers, in the hush of the valley, in the quiet knowledge that to defy the oracle was to step outside the circle of light. Now the valley rests once more. The temple sleeps beneath the moon. The stones hold their silence, their secrets safe within. Far above, the constellations shine. Apollo's bow glimmers faintly in the arc of stars, watching, eternal. You breathe with the night. You rest with the mountains. The oracle's voice fades into dream, soft as the rustle of leaves, distant as the sigh of the sea. No fear lingers here, only quiet, only balance, only the endless hush of prophecy returned to silence. Let your heart grow still, let your breath move slow. The stones are silent now, and the oracle sleeps. The night is heavy with mist. It curls around the trunks of ancient oaks, drifting low across the forest floor, where roots twist like sleeping serpents beneath the soil. The air is damp and cool, carrying the scent of moss and wood smoke, of leaves that have fallen and returned to the earth. Somewhere in the distance an owl calls, its voice long and hollow, a single thread of sound weaving through the silence. This is the land of the Druids, a place where trees are not only trees but temples of living wood, where stones stand tall and solemn, their surfaces marked by centuries of rain, their shapes arranged not by accident but by sacred hand. The groves and the circles are their sanctuaries, untouched by walls, roofed only by sky. Here the Celts turned to their mysteries. Here the breath of the gods was said to move through the branches, and the whispers of the other world were carried on the wind. You walk softly through the grove. The grass is wet beneath your feet. The Tam-dia mist gathers close, as if guiding you deeper, as if urging you toward the heart of the night. The oaks rise around you like pillars, their branches arching high, forming a cathedral of leaves. The forest is not empty. It listens. It holds memory in its bark and wisdom in its roots. The Druids spoke of many worlds. This world, where men walk, where fire burns, where rivers carve the land, and another, unseen yet always near, the other world, a place of spirits, ancestors, gods who move like shadows behind the veil. The border between these realms was thin. Sometimes it opened with festivals of fire. Sometimes it flickered in dreams. And sometimes, in groves such as this, the veil was no more than a breath away. Here, punishments carried more than earthly weight. To the Druids, the soul was never only flesh. Actions did not vanish with a single life. They rippled, they echoed, they bound the spirit to its path. To break the sacred order was to risk exile, not only from the tribe, but from the balance between worlds. Exile meant wandering without belonging, cut off from the hearth, cut off from the circle, drifting like smoke into the cold. Other punishments were offerings, sacrifices, sometimes grain, sometimes animals, sometimes more. These were not only gifts to the gods, but bridges, symbols of restoration, of balance regained. A life given was seen as a thread returned to the tapestry, a payment to keep the circle whole. To modern ears, such rites may seem harsh. Yet here, in the slow breath of the forest, they are gentle shadows of belief, drifting like the smoke of ancient fires, carrying meaning beyond fear. The stones remember. You come upon a circle now, half hidden in the mist, tall, silent, standing like sentinels in the night. Their surfaces are cold with dew. Their shapes catch the moonlight, their shadows stretching long into the grass. These are not random stones. They are aligned with the stars, with the solstice sun, with the rhythm of the heavens. To stand among them is to step into a calendar of eternity, where earth and sky meet in silent accord. Within such circles, the Druids gathered. They chanted in the tongue of the old gods, their voices low and slow, rising like waves and falling into silence again. Fires were lit, their smoke spiraling upward, carrying prayers into the night. And when a punishment was given, an exile, a sacrifice, a ritual, it was not cruelty, but communion, a way to mend the unseen threads, to keep the living and the spirit world in harmony. The punishments themselves were wrapped in mystery. Few were written, for the Druids kept their knowledge by memory, passing it from mouth to ear, from elder to apprentice, from heart to heart. What is known is painted in fragments, yet in the hush of this forest, you can feel it, the weight of silence, the sense that every choice mattered, not only for one life, but for many, across the turning of time. Exile was feared most of all. To be cast out from the tribe was to lose warmth, to lose voice, to lose the circle of firelight. It was to wander without belonging, nameless beneath the stars. Yet even exile held a strange mercy, for the forest itself was alive, and perhaps in solitude, a soul might still hear the gods more clearly. And sacrifice, whether of food, of animals, or sometimes of people, was not seen as punishment alone, but as a door between realms. The blood of the offering sank into the soil, and the soil drank, and the gods listened. It was believed the spirit of the offering traveled onward, carrying messages, appeasing powers unseen, restoring the balance between the living tribe and the other world. All of this was wrapped in reverence. Punishment was not a lash of anger, but a weaving of the soul back into order. The Druids were guardians of that order, listeners to the groves, interpreters of stars, speakers of riddles the forest whispered. They were feared and respected, yet they were not rulers with crowns. They were keepers of the balance. The mist thickens now. You pause in the center of the circle. The stones rise around you, tall and unmoving, yet alive in their silence. For a moment, the forest holds its breath. You feel the closeness of the unseen, the other world, hovering just a breath away. Perhaps you hear a whisper, a sound not quite sound, a rustle not made by leaves. Perhaps you feel a presence, soft as a hand upon your shoulder, reminding you that the veil is thin, that all things are watched, all things remembered. Then the breeze stirs again. The mist parts. The silence loosens its hold. The forest resumes its slow breathing. The owl calls once more from the distance.
You are safe, wrapped in the stillness of the grove, your heart steady, your breath calm. The Druid's world fades like smoke, yet its essence lingers.
A reminder that every action is thread, woven into the endless cloth. That punishment and mercy are not separate, but joined like night and day, like root and leaf. The stones will always stand, the forest will always breathe, and the whispers of the Druids will always drift, soft as fog, through the memory of the earth. Now the grove falls quiet. The mist lays itself gently across the grass once more. The stars shimmer faintly beyond the veil of cloud, their light like silver dust upon the leaves. The circle sleeps, the stones at rest, their silence deep as the roots that anchor them. You close your eyes to the stillness. You breathe with the forest, slow and calm. The night carries you onward beyond the stones, beyond the oaks, into deeper dreams where the whispers of the Druids fade into silence. Now rest, as the forest night surrounds you. Now drift onward, as the stars return. The air is warm here, touched by the breath of the tropics. The sun has set, but its fire lingers in the stones, in the wide plazas, in the pyramids that rise like mountains carved by human hands. The night unfolds slowly. Above, the sky is clear, vast, and endless. Stars gleam like silver sparks scattered across dark velvet. Some shimmer faint, some burn bright, and together they weave the pattern of eternity. This is the land of the Maya and the Aztec, where earth and sky were bound in a sacred pact. Here the people looked upward to the heavens and downward to the soil, knowing that life was balance, and balance was fragile. Every harvest, every birth, every victory, and every loss were seen as threads in a great cosmic weaving. You walk across smooth stones worn by countless feet. The plaza is still. The pyramids rise in silence, their steps sharp against the moonlight. Fires once burned here. Drums once sounded. Prayers once lifted on smoke, curling upward to meet the stars. Now only the hush of night remains. Yet the memory is here, waiting, echoing through the stones. For the Maya and the Aztec, blood was not only life, it was the sun's strength, the earth's water, the breath of the gods themselves. To give blood was to feed the universe. To deny it was to let the balance falter, to risk the darkness swallowing the stars. And so, punishments took the form of offerings, harsh in shape yet gentle in intention, for they were acts of devotion, gifts given so that all might live beneath a sky still burning with light. The stars above were not silent. They were gods, moving across the heavens in patterns that told stories. Venus, bright and sharp, was the warrior's star, guiding battles and marking sacred times. The sun was the great heart, rising each day in triumph, setting each night into the jaws of shadow, only to be born again. And the moon, soft, silver, ever-changing, was the reminder that life ebbs and flows, waxes and wanes as all souls must. In the Maya lands, rulers pierced their own flesh with thorns, letting blood drip upon cloth, then burned it, sending the essence skyward as smoke. This was not cruelty, but devotion, a punishment not for crime but for duty. The king himself bore the weight, for his body was the bridge between people and cosmos. His sacrifice nourished the gods, and through it, the rains would fall, the maize would grow, the world would continue. The Aztec carried the same belief into wider circles. Hearts were offered at the temple heights, lifted high into the air, still warm, still beating, gifts to the sun. To outsiders, such rites appear as terror, but to those beneath the shadow of the Great Pyramid it was a sacred duty. The sun's fire was endless only if it was fed. To give a heart was to give the essence of life, so that dawn would come again, so that children would wake to another day. The punishment for betrayal, for great sin, was often to be chosen as an offering. Yet even this was wrapped in honor, for the sacrifice became more than a life ended. It became a spirit ascending, carried on smoke and flame into the realm of the divine. Death was not seen as loss, but as a passage, a doorway through which one's spirit became part of the stars. You stand now at the base of a pyramid. Its steps rise high above, sharp against the sky. The moonlight traces each edge, each corner, as if the stones themselves remember the path of countless feet that once climbed with chants and drums. The air is still, yet you can almost hear the echoes, the steady beat of drums like a great heart, the low voices chanting, the hush of 1,000 watching souls. Imagine the night of ceremony. Torches flicker, casting long shadows across the stones. The priest ascends, carrying obsidian blade and sacred fire. The chosen one follows, not with fear alone, but with reverence, knowing that his death will be his gift, his joining with the divine. At the height, the air is thinner, closer to the stars. The smoke rises, the chants grow louder, and the act is completed, swift, solemn, final. And yet, beyond the sharpness of the moment lies the peace of belief. The offering was not meant to end, but to continue, to keep the great cycle alive, to ensure that the sun would rise again and that the stars would not vanish into endless dark. To suffer was to serve, to give was to live on in the heavens. The punishments of Mesoamerica, though marked in blood, were braided with stars. Every act was a conversation with the cosmos. Every cut, every flame, every offering was a word in that dialogue. And the gods answered, not with voices, but with rains that fed the maize, with dawns that returned each day, with the stars that shone steady above the world. You drift deeper into the silence of the night. The plaza sleeps, yet the constellations glow above. The serpent winds its way across the sky, its body shining in starlight. The hunter lifts his bow. The jaguar crouches among the dark patches of the heavens. Each shape tells a story, each star a reminder that the universe is alive, listening, receiving. The Maya spoke of Xibalba, the underworld, a place of trials and shadows. The journey there was not punishment alone, but part of the soul's passage. To fall into darkness was to be tested, to walk through fear and shadow, until at last the soul emerged again, reborn, renewed. Even in punishment there was promise. Even in blood there was light waiting beyond. The Aztec told of Tonatiuh, the sun god, demanding strength to rise. To fail in offering was to risk his fall, the endless night swallowing the world. But each heart given, each drop of blood offered, was a promise kept. And so the people lived not in despair, but in devotion, knowing their acts kept the wheel turning, the dawn breaking, the stars shining. The night deepens. The pyramid stands silent yet proud, its steps bathed in silver light. The mist of time wraps around it, softening the edges, carrying it into dream. You feel the hush of ages pressing close, a weight not of fear, but of reverence. The punishments of the Maya and Aztec were threads in a tapestry, woven tight with belief, stitched with the colors of sun and blood, shadow and star. Now the stars glow brighter. The air is cool against your skin. The plaza fades, the pyramids dissolve into the night, yet their memory lingers. You are held in the quiet, in the balance of dark and light, in the rhythm of sacrifice and renewal. Let the stars watch over you.
Let the silence carry you.
For in this dream, the offerings are not of pain, but of peace. They are gifts of devotion, of trust, of the endless circle of life returning to itself. Now rest, as the blood of the past becomes the stars above. Now drift onward, as the night carries you into the golden dawn. The night opens slowly. The air is heavy with stillness, as if the world itself is holding its breath. A soft wind drifts across plains of dust and stone. Far away, rivers move in quiet rhythm, their waters glimmering under the watch of pale stars. The crescent moon hangs low, silver and gentle, bending her light toward the earth. This is the land between rivers, the cradle of beginnings. Mesopotamia. Here, beneath endless skies, stories were shaped from clay, carved into tablets, and whispered through the ages. Stories of life and death, of gods and spirits, of doors that must remain closed. You stand at the edge of a temple courtyard. The stones beneath your feet are cool, smooth with age. Torches burn in copper bowls, their flames bending softly in the night air. Shadows flicker against the walls, long and slow, as though the temple itself is breathing. Somewhere beyond, a drum sounds faint, steady as a heartbeat, marking the passage of time. In this land, the underworld was not a place of cruelty. It was not fire nor torment. It was a realm of shadows where silence wrapped itself around every soul. It was called Kur, or Irkala, the great beneath. Once entered, there was no return. Even kings, even gods, could not walk freely in or out without cost. The guardians of this world were not chosen by chance. Priests and priestesses served in quiet devotion, their lives bound to sacred duty. They stood between the living and the shadowed halls, keeping balance, keeping the doors sealed. Their chants, their offerings, their watchfulness were the unseen walls that held the realms apart. In the stories of old, the goddess Ereshkigal ruled these depths. She sat upon a throne of shadow, her gaze steady, her silence deep as stone. Her realm was not cruel, but it was final. Here souls rested in dust. Here they drank from clay cups and lay beneath still skies without sun. Life above was bright, full of water and warmth. Life below was dim, hushed, eternal. The guardians knew this truth. They knew that if the gates opened wide, the worlds would bleed into one another. The order of heaven and earth would tremble. And so, punishments were not anger, but protection. They were measures woven into ritual, into chant, into sacred law, keeping the path firm, keeping the balance whole. Listen. The wind carries the faint murmur of a hymn. It rises from the temple steps, soft, slow, like water flowing over stone. You feel it brush against your skin, tender as night air. Each note is a thread, binding the mortal world to the divine. Weaving safety across the boundary no soul should cross before its time. The myths tell of Inanna, queen of heaven, who once chose to descend. She walked down 7 gates, surrendering crown, jewels, robe, until she stood bare before Ereshkigal. She sought power, yet the underworld held her fast. The balance demanded her stillness, demanded her life. For 3 days and nights, she lay in shadow until messengers carried her essence back. Even a goddess, radiant and fierce, was bound by the weight of the underworld. Such stories whispered to mortals the truth. The underworld could not be taken lightly. Doors once opened could not easily close. Punishments then were not vengeance but reminders. A hand laid upon the flame, a season of silence, an exile into solitude. These were not cruelties, but echoes of shadow, teaching reverence for the boundary no one could escape. You walk deeper into the temple. The air grows cooler, touched with the scent of oil and clay. Murals line the walls painted long ago. You see figures of winged guardians, lions with human faces, spirits standing tall with eyes like stars. They hold staffs and keys, their posture still and steady, eternal watchers at the gates. Their presence alone is enough to hush the heart. Imagine the rituals. Candles lit in quiet circles, bowls filled with grain, fruit, honey, poured as offerings to the unseen. Priests murmur prayers, their voices low, steady, like the flowing of the river. They do not pray for escape. They pray for balance, for the living to stay among the living, for the dead to rest where they must. In these moments, punishment was shaped as teaching. One who disturbed graves might be made to fast, so that they felt the hunger of the silent world. One who broke sacred law might spend nights alone in darkened halls, so they might taste the stillness of Kur. Each act was measured, not to harm, but to remind. The soul would carry the lesson, and the balance would hold. The stars above shimmer softly. They seem far, yet their light reaches even here, spilling across the temple stones. The guardians of the underworld watched these stars as guides. For though the dead did not return, the heavens were always present, always moving. They marked the seasons of planting, of harvest, of flood. They reminded the living that above shadow, light still flowed eternal. A story tells of Nergal, god of war and plague, who once stormed the gates of the underworld. He forced his way in with fire and fury, but even he, fierce as the sun at noon, could not leave unchanged. He was bound in union with Ereshkigal, chained by shadow as much as by love. For every power there was its counterweight. For every rising, a descent. For every door opened, a door sealed. The Guardians held this knowledge in their hearts. They were keepers of measure. They knew that punishment was not an end, but a circle. To fall was to learn. To be silenced was to listen. To be humbled was to remember. And in remembering, the order of life and death was kept unbroken. You pause at the threshold of a chamber. A great stone door looms before you, carved with symbols of wings, serpents, and stars. It is shut. It has always been shut. Its weight is not only stone, but prayer, ritual, and song layered over centuries. The air is still. You know this door is not to be opened, yet its presence comforts. It tells you that the world is safe, held in balance by unseen hands. The temple breathes. The torches flicker low. Somewhere, a priest's voice hums soft, steady, like a lullaby carried on night wind. The underworld is near, but it does not reach. Its doors are sealed, its guardians firm, its balance whole. The punishments whispered here are gentle reminders, guiding souls back toward harmony, keeping the fabric of existence from tearing. The night deepens. Stars glow brighter as though the heavens lean closer, watching with quiet eyes. The river's song drifts through the air, slow, constant, endless. You feel yourself soften, your breath deepen, your body rest in the calm of this ancient balance. Here, in Mesopotamia, punishments were not vengeance. They were guardianship. They were offerings to the silence below, acts of reverence for the shadowed realm. They were keys that locked the doors so that life might flow freely above, so that the dead might rest in stillness, so that the stars might continue their endless watch. Let the night cradle you now. Let the stars hold you in their patient light. The guardians remain at their posts, steady as stone, gentle as silence. You may rest, knowing the doors are sealed, the balance unbroken. Now drift onward. Now close your eyes as the underworld sleeps and the stars return. The night folds itself gently around you. Above, the stars shimmer like silver dust scattered across velvet skies. Their light is quiet, patient, unhurried. The moon watches from her high throne, casting soft streams of brightness across the earth. Shadows deepen, not in fear, but in calm, as if they are blankets laid carefully over the sleeping world. You find yourself walking through an ancient city. Rome, though not as it once appeared in the glare of day. This is Rome in twilight. Its marble pillars glow pale in moonlight. Its streets are hushed, emptied of crowds, emptied of noise. The fountains whisper as water flows into stone basins, their song like a lullaby. Torches burn low in niches, their flame soft, swaying like reeds in a gentle breeze. Yet behind these walls, hidden from the eyes of the restless world, another Rome lives. A Rome of secrets, a Rome of silence, a Rome where mysteries are guarded like sacred fire. You feel the hush of that hidden world now, like a veil drawn across the night. There were brotherhoods in these times, circles of seekers who gathered beneath the surface of the earth. Among them were the followers of Mithras, the god whose mysteries were known only to the few. Their temples were not built to shine under the sun, but carved into caverns hidden in the dark womb of the earth. To step inside was to leave the world above, and to enter a realm of shadow, symbol, and silence. The air within such a temple was cool and still. Oil lamps burned low along the walls, their light golden and dim. Stone benches curved inward like arms embracing. And at the far end, carved into stone or painted upon the wall, the image of Mithras himself, slaying the cosmic bull, his gaze lifted toward the heavens, his act both a sacrifice and a gift. Those who entered were not wanderers. They were chosen, invited, prepared. To become an initiate was to pass through silence, discipline, and trust. Words were not given lightly. Secrets were not scattered like seeds in the wind. They were guarded, treasured, sealed behind oaths. In the brotherhoods of mystery, punishments were not lashes of cruelty. They were symbols. They were teachings written not on clay or parchment, but upon the soul itself. If an oath was broken, it was not the hand that suffered, but the spirit. One might be cast into exile not as vengeance, but as silence unending. For to lose the brotherhood was to lose the circle of firelight, the song of the ritual, the comfort of belonging. Imagine the night of initiation. You descend into the cavern, the lamps glowing faintly. The air carries the scent of wax and stone, touched with a hint of smoke. You hear the rustle of robes, the whisper of sandals on the floor. A hush covers every sound, as though the world itself is listening. Masks are placed upon the faces of the gathered, some shaped like animals. The lion, the raven, the serpent. Each mask a symbol, each symbol a lesson. The lion for courage, the raven for the messenger, the serpent for wisdom hidden beneath the earth. The masks remind the initiates that every soul wears more than one face, and that to walk the path of mystery is to learn the faces within. In silence, oaths are spoken. The voice does not rise. It does not echo. It flows soft as water poured from a cup. Words promise loyalty, secrecy, discipline. To betray them is to break more than trust. It is to shatter the thread that binds one soul to the mystery. And so, punishment was simple, but heavy. Removal, the breaking of bonds, the silence of the door closing. It was exile from the warmth of hidden fire. In this, the punishment was a mirror. It reflected the lesson back upon the heart. To lose the circle was to know its worth. To feel its absence was to understand its gift. You drift further into the cavern temple. Your hand brushes the stone wall, cool and smooth. The lamps flicker. Shadows ripple, painting the walls with shapes like wings, like flowing water, like stars. The mystery was not written to be understood in haste. It was lived, breathed, slowly revealed. Each symbol carried 1,000 meanings, and yet none were spoken openly. The silence was itself a teacher. In silence, the heart learns patience. In silence, the ear learns to hear the unspoken. In silence, the soul begins to listen to its own depths. And so, when silence was broken carelessly, the punishment returned the soul to silence again, like a child sent back to the womb of stillness to begin anew. The followers of Mithras were not alone in such ways. Across Rome and beyond, many brotherhoods wove their mysteries in secret halls. Some followed the old gods of Egypt, whispering names in the dim glow of candles. Some sought the stars, tracing the paths of planets as guides to the soul. Some carried masks, some carried scripts, some carried sacred objects wrapped in cloth, but all shared this truth. The mystery was not for all eyes. To guard it was to honor it. To shield it was to strengthen it. Punishments, then, were never cruelty. They were guardianship. They were walls of silence raised to protect the flame. Listen now to the imagined chant. A hum rises softly in the temple, low, steady, like the beating of a drum beneath the earth. It fills the chamber, yet it is not loud. It flows like a river through the silence, each note carrying the weight of devotion. You feel it move through you, calming, grounding, steadying. The masks gleam in the half-light. The initiates stand as statues, their breath slow, their hearts bound by the same rhythm. They are no longer many, but one. The mystery has bound them together. The silence has sewn them into a single cloth. Outside, the world moves with noise and speed. Soldiers march. Merchants call. The sun beats upon the stones. But here in the Temple of Shadow, time slows. Here the punishments are gentle reminders of discipline. Here, every silence is a lesson, every mask a mirror, every oath a bridge between the human and the divine. You step back, and the chamber grows dimmer. The flames lower, the chant fades, the masks vanish into the folds of shadow, yet the hush remains. It clings to you like a cloak, soft, protective, eternal. You carry it with you, even as you drift away. The stars above Rome still shine. They have shone for centuries, watching over the city, watching over the mysteries, watching over the silence of those who kept their oaths. They are the true guardians. They remind the soul that beyond the masks, beyond the punishments, beyond the hidden doors, there is light unending. So now, let yourself rest in that light. The mysteries are safe. The silence is whole. The masks are set aside. The fire is guarded. The secrets are kept. You may drift, knowing the balance is firm, the oaths unbroken. Now rest, as the stars return. Now drift onward, into the soft embrace of night. Night settles like silk upon the earth. The air is still, touched only by the whisper of unseen winds moving gently through tall grasses. Above, the moon hangs pale and round, a lantern set in the heavens. Stars glimmer quietly, their silver eyes soft, patient, eternal. You drift beneath their gaze, as though guided along a hidden path of light. Far away, across ancient lands, stories once curled through the air like smoke from sacred fires. They spoke of the serpent, coiled and watchful, a guardian of thresholds, a judge of shadows. In villages and temples, carved in stone and painted on walls, the serpent wound its way through myth and memory. Neither beast nor spirit alone, it was both feared and revered, a creature of the earth, yet also a messenger between worlds. In Asia's oldest tales, the serpent was not cruelty. It was trial. It was the path by which the soul was measured, the fire by which impurities were burned away. To meet the serpent was to meet oneself, to stand before a mirror of scales and silence, and to discover what must be shed, like an old skin, so that the spirit could step forward renewed. Imagine now a sacred grove beneath moonlight. Bamboo sways with a gentle creak, each stalk bending, rising, bending again, like breath. Lanterns hang from low branches, their flames small and steady, halos of gold in the misty night. At the grove's center lies a pool, still as polished stone, and on its surface a ripple moves, slow, deliberate. From beneath, a shape coils upward, a serpent, long and gleaming, its scales reflecting the glow of lantern light. Its eyes do not glare. They shine softly, like amber stone set deep within shadow. It does not lunge, it does not hiss. It waits, patient as the earth itself. To step near is to enter judgment, not from anger, but from truth. In old beliefs, when one strayed from harmony, the serpent was said to appear in dream or vision, not to strike, but to guide. The punishments it brought were not endings, but passages. If pride weighed heavy, the serpent coiled tighter, pressing the spirit until humility flowed once more. If deceit clung like thorns, its gaze pierced, burning away falsehood, leaving only clear light. If anger clouded the heart, its body encircled, forcing stillness, teaching calm. Punishment, then, was a form of healing. The serpent carried shadows away, shedding them as skins, leaving the soul lighter, brighter, closer to wisdom. You watch as the serpent glides through the pool. Each movement is slow, circular, endless. It draws a pattern across the water, like the turning of time itself. Around the pool, elders gather in silence. Their robes are pale, their hands folded. They do not speak. They wait for the lesson the serpent brings, knowing it arrives not in words, but in presence. The serpent pauses. Its tongue flickers, tasting the air. Then it lowers its head to the water's edge where a youth kneels. The youth has come seeking forgiveness, carrying burdens unseen. The serpent's head bows low, and its gaze meets the youth's eyes. In that gaze, all falsehood dissolves. The youth trembles, not in fear but in recognition. It is the gaze of truth. Softly the serpent coils, wrapping once around the youth's body. Not crushing, not harming, simply enclosing. A circle, unbroken. A reminder that life is a wheel, that endings are beginnings, that no shadow is forever. The youth closes his eyes, exhales, and lets go. His breath carries away his old weight, and when the serpent unwinds, he is different, calmer, clearer, renewed. Such were the punishments of the serpent cults. Not lash or blade, but trial of the spirit, a burning away of heaviness, a cleansing through the mirror of scales. For what is punishment, if not a call to balance? What is discipline, if not a path back to light? The elders bow as the serpent sinks again into the pool. The water's still, the lanterns flicker, and the grove falls silent once more. The lesson has been given. The night holds it safe. In other places, other times, the serpent stretched its body across myths like a bridge. In India it became the Naga, guardian of rivers, keeper of treasures, protector of sacred spaces. In China the serpent mingled with the dragon, carrying storms and rains, a sign not only of danger, but of blessing. In tribal faiths, the serpent carved pathways through underworlds, guiding the souls of the departed toward dawn. Always, it held the same truth. To face the serpent was to face the self. To endure its trial was to step closer to wisdom. Imagine now a winding cave, deep beneath the mountain. Its walls shimmer with crystals, glinting faintly in torchlight. The air is cool, damp, echoing with the slow drip of water. Along the floor, carved grooves mark the path, spiraling inward like the serpent's coil. At the cave's heart lies a chamber. Upon the floor, a circle of sand, smooth and pale, and drawn upon it, the shape of a serpent devouring its own tail. The endless circle, the Ouroboros. To those who entered, this was the final symbol. Punishment and reward, shadow and light, death and birth, All joined, all one. The serpent was not destroyer alone, nor savior alone. It was both. It was the balance of the circle. The chamber is quiet. Only the drip of water, the glow of crystals, the faint flicker of flame. One could sit here, unmoving, for hours, for days, and still the serpent's lesson would whisper. Shed what is heavy, release what is false. Step forward, lighter, freer, brighter. And so, across centuries, the serpent's judgment endured. It whispered through dreams. It wound across stone carvings. It shimmered in rituals beneath moonlight. Its punishments were not chains, but paths. Not cruelty, but cleansing. Now the night deepens. The lanterns in the grove dim. The pool lies still, unbroken. The cave drifts back into shadow. Yet the serpent's lesson remains, gentle and clear. Every burden may be shed. Every shadow may be released. Every soul may pass through trial and emerge lighter than before. The stars above glimmer more brightly now. They, too, are circles, burning endlessly in the sky, mirrors of the serpent's coil. They remind you that time is not a line, but a wheel. That endings are beginnings. That judgment is not the end of love, but its secret shape. So let the serpent rest now deep in its pool, coiled in its cave, woven into the endless sky. Let its judgment become your peace, its trial your release. You drift lighter, clearer, calmer as the stars hold you in their gaze. Let us drift onward then. The night is wide. The circle is whole. Now rest as the stars return. The night stretches wide, a velvet sky scattered with quiet stars. Their light drifts softly downward, resting on the earth like silver dust. A pale moon rises, steady and round, holding the heavens in silence. Beneath its glow, the world seems hushed, as though every tree, every stone, every flowing river has paused to listen. You drift within this stillness, breathing gently, moving deeper into the dream of story. Across all lands, across the winding rivers of time, humanity has looked toward the sacred. Some built temples of stone. Some gathered near fires in the desert. Others sought groves of tall trees, or caves where water dripped like the slow ticking of the earth's heart. In every place, in every age, one question lingered. How may the soul return to balance? Balance was the thread woven through every sacred punishment, every ritual of cleansing. Punishment was never the end. It was the passage. It was the shedding of shadows so that the light could be felt once more. It was the river that carried the soul back toward the eternal circle, where all things meet. Picture now a great tapestry stretched across the sky. It is not woven of thread, but of stars. Each star, a story. Each constellation, a memory. Some threads shine bright, others glow faint and soft, but all are part of the same design. The circle begins in one place, travels across the heavens, and gently returns. There is no break, no ending, only flow. Within this tapestry, punishments of the ancients find their place. The serpent of Asia coils, its judgment burning away falsehood. The stone halls of Rome hold silence, where masks of mystery shield sacred secrets. The deserts whisper of trials by fire, where heat and flame purify the spirit. The forests murmur of whispered chants, where the heart is tested against the weight of shadow. Each one, though different in form, holds the same truth. The soul is not meant to remain in imbalance. The punishments are not cruelty. They are mirrors. They are rivers. They are gates through which the spirit must pass, leaving behind its burden, stepping forward lighter, freer, closer to the eternal. Imagine walking a circle drawn in sand. Each step is soft. Each grain shifts beneath your feet. You follow the curve, round and round. At first it feels endless, as though you will never leave. But as the circle continues, you realize it does not trap you. It carries you. Every step is a return. Every breath is a beginning. Balance is not found by leaving the circle. It is found by moving with it. The ancients knew this. They carved circles into stone walls. They painted spirals upon pottery. They told stories of the Ouroboros, the serpent, devouring its own tail, the endless turning of life and death, light and shadow. They knelt in round chambers, lit fires in circles, and gathered in rings, always shaping their rituals into this eternal form. For the circle is the softest of shapes. It has no sharp edge, no corner, no end. It holds gently, like the embrace of time. Close your eyes in this dream. See the circle stretch before you. At one point upon it stands a temple, tall and echoing, its steps worn by countless feet. At another lies a grove, lanterns swaying in the trees. At another burns a desert fire, its flames dancing with the wind. At another, a pool of water, where the serpent waits in silence. Different places, different faces, yet all held in the same curve, all part of the same whole. The punishments seem many, but in truth they are one. They are the turning of the circle. They remind the soul that shadows may always be released, that fear may always be softened, that anger may always dissolve. The body suffers a little, the heart trembles, but the spirit walks lighter when the trial has passed. You drift deeper, carried by this thought. The stars above swirl slowly, as though they too are turning in a great circle. Their glow falls like a veil across the land, silvering rivers, touching mountain peaks, resting on seas that breathe with the tide. All is round. All is balanced. The ancients whispered that life itself was a circle. Birth leads to death. Death leads to birth. The sun sets, the moon rises, and in time the sun returns again. The seed falls. The tree grows. The fruit ripens. The seed falls again. Punishment and reward, shadow and light, silence and song, they too flow endlessly in this same rhythm. You may imagine yourself at the heart of this circle. Around you, the serpent coils, the fire burns, the masks are worn, the chants are sung. Yet none of these are heavy now. They do not frighten. They are gentle reminders. They teach you that all things, pain, joy, fear, peace, have their place. They balance each other, completing the wheel. The tapestry above shimmers. The stars flicker like threads being woven anew. You feel the weaving now, as though your own life is one strand among many. Perhaps there were times you felt punished, times of trial, times of sorrow. Yet within the circle, even these moments become threads of light. They balance with your joys, your laughter, your love. They create the whole picture, beautiful only because each piece belongs. Balance does not erase shadow. It does not silence fire. It does not remove the serpent's coil. Balance holds them, softens them, and turns them into part of the design. You drift further, deeper. The night grows stiller. The circle closes gently, not with a sound, but with silence. A silence that is wide, endless, eternal. The ancients believed that within this silence dwelled the divine. Beyond punishment, beyond trial, beyond all human breath, there is stillness. Within that stillness, all is whole. All is balanced. All is one. Now the fire in the desert dims. The grove lanterns fade. The serpent slips beneath still waters. The temple doors close. One by one, the places of trial dissolve into the night. But the circle remains. It turns slowly, endlessly, carrying every story, every life, every breath within its curve. You float upon it, light as air. The stars above guide you, gentle and patient. The earth beneath supports you, steady and quiet. Around you the circle turns, always bringing you back to balance. Let us drift onward then. The tapestry holds you, the circle carries you. Now rest as the stars return, and the eternal balance cradles your soul in peace.